This is probably the best heroin up here right now. This area is flooded with drugs.
People are using drugs in bathrooms. We know that people are using drugs in parks, and we know that they're dying from drugs like that.
There's constant overdoses, just nonstop.
Responding to overdoses in the areas that I grew up, it hits home a little bit.
We have a tool that can stop overdose deaths. Why are we not using it?
We knew there was an overdose crisis before City Hall.
I don't think that supporting drugs is the answer.
A battle rages against the opioid epidemic across New York City. Since 2010, fatal drug overdoses have steadily increased. Last year, the city saw the highest number ever in recorded history, 1,441. In response, Mayor Bill de Blasio launched Healing NYC with the goal of reducing opioid fatalities by 35% over the next 5 years.
We know this is the most human of crises. It leads to so many people at the end standing by a graveside and asking why.
The $38 million annual investment, which will increase to $60 million in 2019, expands treatment programs, rescue kits, and law enforcement efforts. But the battle is far from over. Noah Gower, once a promising cook at Tavern on the Green, lives on the streets of Washington Heights, fighting an addiction he's carried for the last 10 years.
Drugs are just a Band-Aid to a much deeper issue. For me, I could sit here and point my finger and say it's because I hadn't seen my father since I was 6. I had found heroin, actually, in Atlantic City. That's where it all started. The bar scene to sniffing coke, and then that led to heroin, coming down off of the coke and feeling like crap and having to go to work the next day. And it was a girl, of course. There's a saying, it's always because of a girl.
Do you remember the first time?
I do.
What was it like? What happened?
It sounds so cliche, but it felt like it was that feeling that I always wanted to feel, that feeling I was looking for. I felt like I melted into the couch and that I was flying.
Noah chased that feeling all the way to drug charges that landed him in prison at the age of 21. Now Noah lives on the fringes of the streets, always planning the next high.
My habit has escalated from a $50 a day habit to a $150 a day habit.
How do you support that?
Boosting. Or shoplifting in layman's terms. I do get food stamps once a month, which I sadly and shamefully say I sell every month.
So what are you gonna do now?
I want to go use right now, to be honest. I haven't used yet.
So. Where are you gonna do it?
Upstairs in the Needle Exchange, Corner Project.
Needle exchange sites started in 1992 to combat AIDS among injection drug users. There are now 14 citywide.
Corner Project brings people in off the street. They're able to access sterile equipment for drug use, so safer injecting equipment, so clean syringes and other paraphernalia. They are educated around health risks around drug use.
Last year, the city needle exchanges handed out more than 4.1 million needles, an average of 11,000 a day.
How you doing, honey?
One of the main things to do is to not be naive about what's happening.
Excuse me, honey, you gotta come out now, okay?
And so we know that people are using drugs in bathrooms, we know that people are using drugs in parks, and we know that they're dying from drugs like that.
About half of all overdose deaths in New York City involve fentanyl. Fentanyl is 50 to 100 times stronger than heroin. It only takes 2 milligrams, an amount equivalent to 5 grains of salt, to cause a fatal overdose.
We feel it's morally responsible to monitor our bathrooms. And what that means is that if an overdose does occur in a bathroom, rather than in the bathroom at McDonald's or at Burger King where people are dying, they don't die here because we intervene.
Sorry. You're next. You're after him.
Clients of the project are limited to 15 minutes in the bathroom. A staff member trained in how to handle an overdose checks on the client every few minutes.
Lisa.
If needed, a drug called naloxone is used to reverse an overdose.
What happens is when somebody has an overdose, we test their bag. So whatever they've just used, we'll test it for fentanyl, and if it's positive, then we put out a warning like this.
What do you guys have to say for yourself?
Law enforcement is fighting the multi-million-dollar heroin business. Drugs coming in from Mexico and China, flooding the streets, supplying the high that clients of the project and others are chasing.
These dealers are not unwittingly mixing fentanyl into the heroin that they're selling on our streets. They are doing it knowingly. They are trying to increase their profit because the fentanyl is cheaper.
Across New York City, someone dies of a drug overdose every 7 hours. And because of that, the NYPD has $15 million a year from Healing NYC to investigate every overdose. It's a personal as well as professional mission for many of the investigators.
Personally, I've dealt with a lot of friends that got hooked. I have a few in jail and a few that died, unfortunately.
I responded to an overdose, and I received another call for an overdose. Within a course of 8 hours, 5 overdoses came over.
I used to be a high school teacher. Probably the first or second search warrant that I ever went out on. The target of the investigation was a former student of mine. And get the kid down on the ground and handcuffed, and I'm sitting there wearing a heavy vest, holding a shield, and wearing a military-style helmet. And the kid looks up at me and he goes, "Hey, is that you, Mr. T?" And I said, "Yeah, it is, buddy." It was a kid that I had for 4 years teaching history to.
Afternoon, fellas. How's it going?
This Staten Island unit has been investigating Richard Seifert, an alleged drug dealer, for a year and a half.
No surprises when we go in.
They finally have received word that there's enough evidence to prepare a bust.
This case started back in, 2016, right?
December 16th.
That was with the subject's father. He overdosed. And then the subject, he overdosed as well, right?
Our subject now is...
That was the second one.
All right, so this guy's obviously, he's causing havoc for Staten Island. The overdoses in Staten Island are high. To have 5 at one location, we got to make sure that this guy is brought down.
His room is exactly how he left it that morning. His hockey jerseys, some of them, they're still sitting here because we were going to frame them and just hang them up in here for him. He was like an old man trapped in a little boy's body. Just very loving, affectionate. He was a really good kid.
Tish Scolara says her son Chris Caporero was introduced to prescription pills in school at 16.
At first I was in denial, like every other parent, making excuses and believing the excuses. So as soon as we found the pills, we immediately sent him to rehab. I didn't find out about the heroin until 5 years ago, and he had no choice but to fess up because a needle had fallen out in my car.
What went through your mind?
Heartbreak, fear, because I knew once you've gone that far, it's really hard to come back from that.
I don't think that supporting drugs is the answer.
We have a tool that can stop overdose deaths.
Very dangerous, a lot of stuff going down at this house. There's definitely going to be a lot of needles.
These were the pictures that were at his service.
24-year-old Brooklyn native Chris Caporero cycled through so many drug rehab programs that his mother Tish lost count.
Tough. Extremely tough. Sorry. It's hard.
Chris found a drug addict's compromise. He told his mom about the Corner Project.
I just couldn't understand it. And then he was like, Mom, if I'm gonna use, I'm gonna use. Would you rather me use someplace where I'm safe and someone's watching me? He would send me a selfie from their bathroom and say, Mom, I'm okay.
$227 overdoses were stopped by city needle exchanges in 2017. That's more than double the amount from 2 years ago.
Instead of the punitive approach of, we'll help you once you decide to get better. What if they don't? What if they keep using? Do they deserve to die?
At the Corner Project, participants are able to use inside the bathroom. But in other countries, it's allowed in the open under the supervision of medical professionals. They're called safe injection sites, or SIFs, and have been around for 30 years.
Largely, it would be along the lines of a clinic, indistinguishable from other medical or clinical facilities. And the idea with a SIF is that people who are going to be injecting anyway, going to the SIF is a way to reduce the risk of having an unwitnessed or unnoticed overdose.
At the Corner Project, Chris got information and support. But it wasn't until he was eventually court-mandated to attend drug counseling in an upstate prison that he got clean. When he got out, he was living at home and working construction.
He looked amazing, and we just kept saying, wow, he looks great. Wow, he's just focused, and he's doing everything the way he's supposed to be.
And then Tish got the call she had been dreading.
When he got to work, they gave him his work orders for the day, and it happened to be in Washington Heights. He actually called his girlfriend. He said to her, have you ever been so scared that you just feel like throwing up? And that just stays in my head. So, like he was fighting to the bitter end. I feel like, fighting that urge.
Chris was found inside the bathroom at this McDonald's, just 10 blocks away from the Corner Project.
We have a tool that can stop overdose deaths. Why are we not using it as other countries do?
Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal sponsored the Safer Consumption Services Act, authorizing SIFs in New York.
No one has ever died in a safer consumption site. Let me repeat that. No one has ever died in a safer consumption site.
Are you worried that if passed, a safer injection site could come to Harlem?
Absolutely. I don't want people to die. I want to make that perfectly clear. I would like them to find a better way to address the drug epidemic. I don't think that supporting drugs is the answer. When I first moved into the neighborhood, it was terrible. There were drugs everywhere. There were syringes everywhere. But then over time, we were able to get a lot of that out of the neighborhood. We have families that are moving here now.
What I've read about tells me that it's saving people's lives. Yes, excellent. What's next? What happens after that? So we keep you alive, and then where's the program?
I want to get out of the city just 'cause I feel like it's too tempting for me out here,
Noah is back at the Corner Project again, but this time he says he wants help.
When I look at every time I've gotten clean, I'd say about 80% of the time my hand was forced, usually by the legal system or by my girlfriend.
He's relying on Medicaid to cover the cost.
Listen, I have a client that would like to go to detox. Do you have any beds available? Hey, Noah. Noah. Listen, 20 minutes and Brenda's gonna be here. You ready for that? Huh? Are you all right, buddy? So, as you notice, he's not ready for it. So I'm gonna have to cancel it for today.
Well, not much has changed, to be perfectly frank. When I saw you last, I was supposed to go into treatment that day. And to be honest, that whole experience of you know, sharing my story with you, it stirred up a lot of emotions for me. I'm struggling with the idea of not having any type of crutch. And it is, I don't know, it's debilitating to think that I can't ever smoke a joint one day or have a drink. That idea scares me. And that's what they want you to believe in most programs.
We were gonna hit a door today, conduct a search warrant at a subject location where we had our 5 overdoses. It all started back in December 2016. I know you're all aware of it.
Overdose deaths in New York City have more than doubled since 2010. Last year, more than 80% involved opioids. The NYPD launched heroin overdose task forces in 2017 after a successful pilot on Staten Island. They have investigated 1,350 fatal overdoses in an effort to identify dealers and get them off the streets.
Responding to overdoses in the areas that I grew up, you know, it hits home a little bit.
There's kids out there overdosing that are the same age as the rest of our children. It doesn't seem to be slowing down right now. I'm going to do all I can.
Today, the team plans to arrest Ziefert at his home, a place they've been before, to investigate 5 overdoses. First, a safety briefing.
There is, you know, some safety concerns in regards to the fentanyl and needles we have to worry about. So please be careful, make sure we have our rubber gloves, security envelopes, and all the equipment that's needed.
The team gears up and heads to Ziefert's home. Police say he sold heroin laced with fentanyl to a confidential informant.
So we're trying to take down the subject of this so we can end this, you know, him pitching fentanyl to these people and killing Staten Island and basically, you know, the country. This is happening all over the place. All right, guys, just to recap real quick. We know the subject's information, what he looks like. Everybody be safe, all right?
We have a lot of worries every time we do this. Pretty dangerous, you know, a lot of stuff going down at this house. There's definitely going to be a lot of needles, you know. Safety's paramount at this point, so it's a go time.
That's the name of the game. That's why we do this. One more person off the street.
I've totally cut off ties with any friends that I have. Drugs have become my wife, you know?
Release the state! Release the state!
The NYPD heroin overdose team has been targeting alleged drug dealer Richard Ziefert for more than a year. Thanks to surveillance and confidential informants, they have enough evidence to arrest Ziefert.
Just to recap real quick, we spoke about this a little bit earlier. Everybody knows their assignments. We know the subject location. It's only a few blocks from here. We know what he looks like. Everybody be safe.
And now they're on their way to Ziefert's home.
We recovered some product in the location, in his room exactly, including his phone.
Detectives find cocaine, heroin, and marijuana in his room.
It was just quite shocking to know that that was the type of activity that was going on here, especially with the people that passed away in the past. It's kind of sad for a block that's very quiet like this, but hopefully maybe this will stop it.
You guys went through the door and were able to find the suspect. How does it feel that this guy's now in custody?
Great. Feels fantastic. That's the name of the game. That's why we do this. You know, one more person off the street, and he's going to go to jail.
Ziefert is brought to the 120 precinct in St. George, where he's booked on felony heroin possession charges.
We're just happy to finalize it and get him off the street.
Once a popular kid voted best looking, Noah's friends have dwindled down to one who he dated years ago.
How's your day going? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I also called in part. I wanted to know if maybe I could come by again tonight. Maybe we could talk about it, you know?
But instead, Noah went back to the streets that night, boosting for his next fix.
My ex used to say that. She used to say, you love Lady H more than you love me. You know?
They need somebody to meet them where they are.
We want the mayor to stop being so afraid of his image. Release the report! Release the report!
The New York City Council spent $100,000 on a feasibility study for SIFs in 2016. It was supposed to be released in May 2017.
He is not going to be seen as soft on drugs. He's going to be seen. Not one more! Not one more! Not one more! Not one more, man! Release the study! We got some attention!
But 9 months later, still no study.
We're obviously having dialogue, PD and Department of Health. When I say soon, usually is a sign. Soon we're going to have more to say on that.
Not one more!
Advocates and skeptics were frustrated by the delay.
I'm concerned that our politicians really didn't just come out and just let us know what's going on.
The study was finally released in early May 2018, showing the mayor's support for safe injection sites.
This is a very imperfect option, but it is an option that saved lives, and it's also an option that has gotten people a treatment. That's why we think it's worth trying.
Despite his support of the SIFs, there's a complex approval process starting with the state health department and local lawmakers.
To my guardian angel, you may see my selfish and imperfect tendencies as a fault in your motherhood.
Tish treasures the last Mother's Day card Chris gave her.
But on the contrary, it only solidifies the fact that you loved me enough. God could not be everywhere, so he made mothers like you.
Pasta.
Noah is back to cooking, but this time it's at the Corner Project. He says he's ready to try methadone again, a medication treating heroin addiction.
That would be my third time trying. All right.
Over the next couple of weeks, Noah visits the methadone clinic. He's supposed to go daily, but doesn't. He soon stops.
I would go one day and then miss a day, go, miss a day. I was using through that whole process.
He knew he needed professional help.
I went to the ER. It ended up being a blessing in disguise.
He stayed for 12 days and was treated with methadone and received psychological counseling.
I have a chance now, you know. If I'm gonna use, it's my choice. I don't have to use. Today I have that choice.
And so what are you choosing for today?
I'm gonna stay clean today.